Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to CAN TV on Channel 21. I'm Alice Merrifield, and this is Hotline 21. It's a live call-in show. The number is at the bottom of your screen, 312-738-1060. Joining me this evening is Adrien Teverbaugh. If you saw last week, we said we had a mystery guest, so Adrien is our mystery guest, and surprise. Adrien has worked for Beacon for about
11 years.
About 11 years now, and works in our HUD and homeless outreach programs. So, first of all, let me show you a little bit about Beacon. There's our locations. We have our business office on 103rd near Longwood. We have our Longwood campus, which is our elementary programs, our outpatient programs, and our intensive outpatient programs at 107th in Longwood. We have our homeless outreach services at 118th in Western, and our high school is at the Calumet Park campus. So Beacon provides homeless outreach services within 27 plus shelters throughout the city. Highly trained and mobile clinicians and case managers help children and families cope with the trauma of being homeless and support them in gaining self-sufficiency, housing, and stabilization. So Adrien, so you've been with Beacon for 11 years. Tell us a little bit about what you did before you came to Beacon.
Well, before I came to Beacon, I worked for an agency in the south suburbs. And what my main job was, I was a vocational therapist, and I would assist the participants in learning how to work at different jobs. We had a little place called the Repeat Boutique, and it was in downtown Homewood. It was excellent. And what happened is I assisted the participants in working on stocking shelves and things like that. We had clothing. And what I saw is it really helped them because it gave them pride in themselves. And we would have a little, they would get a little stipend, and they would use that to buy clothes. And the next week they would come in and they'd have the clothes on, and they really feel good about themselves. And from that, I came to Beacon. I was told that they were looking for a counselor, a case manager. Right. And then I got into the housing, which was I would go out to the shelters throughout the city and assess the women and the children. And what I found was all the different stories and the situations that came out of just doing an assessment. And you find out that homelessness is more than just, it's not a decision people make. It's a problem that they go through, and it should be a temporary problem. So what we've done in these years that I've been with Beacon is we've turned that temporary problem into a permanent solution. And what it's done, it just makes you feel good when you see a family, a mom and children that had nowhere to go, and then we pull the resources, because what people don't realize is they have resources that they don't even know they have, that they don't know they qualify for. So once we come and wrap the service around them in the shelter, we find out that, hey, you can get money here. You have monies coming to you that you didn't know you had. And once we get all their entitlements to them, they find out, they save a little money. We work on housing. We work on getting employment. And once it all comes together, they're housed.
You mentioned resources that people don't even know they have. You talked about some concrete resources. What is your experience with helping people find internal resources as well as some of the external? So, what would you say that Beacon does for our viewers, like in terms of finding all the resources, internal and external, and Beacon operates obviously from a strengths-based approach.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about how you identify people's coping skills? And
well, what we do is we do a general assessment on the participants, and that takes sometimes 3 hours. And we talk about what's going on, where were they in the past, what symptoms they might be experiencing. What people have to understand is that just a small time of being homeless, depression can set up. And once you're dealing with depression and you're not knowing you're having symptoms of depression, that's what we come up with. We say, okay, we sit down, we talk to them, we take the information back to our staff psychiatrists. And what we do, we sit down and we go through the case, and the psychiatrist would come through and say, okay, this is what we're working with. Because what it is when we do an assessment, I don't want to just say, okay, this is what I think. I need to go back to the agency psychiatrist to make sure what I'm seeing, he's seeing. And we want to be on one accord when we do this. And what happens is, once we come back with a diagnosis, then we know how to work with it. If the client is suffering from depression, then what we do, we work, okay, do you want, and it's all about the participant wanting to do something. We don't push anything.
All the services are voluntary.
The services are voluntary.
Right.
And that's one of the big things. This is a voluntary situation. If you don't feel you need to see the psychiatrist, then fine. You don't need to see our psychiatrist.
And you can still access the housing and the financial education and some of the other services.
Everything we do.
Right.
We work on the financial. A lot of participants haven't even applied for public aid. Once you become in a homeless situation, there are a lot of entitlements that you haven't even thought of to even seek TANF. There's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of monies out there for people that they don't realize that they apply for or that they qualify for. So it's very extensive. Then once we get all that stuff out the way, all the paperwork, I like to call it, then
And I'm just going to put a picture up.
Oh,
So,
okay. Then I like to go into what I like to call a housing. I love the housing. And what we do is we work on all situations that might assist the participant in getting housing. What are they looking for? How much can they afford with the monies they may have?
And right now we're showing some pictures of Beacon staff assisting people with moving in
Yes.
to housing.
And that's always, that's a great day, and it's a tiring day for those of us who, because I've moved several people.
Yeah.
And it's tiring. When the day is over, the day is over. But that's a good feeling, because once you get our participants housed, they feel good about themselves. You can see the children. Oh, mommy, look, we have a room. And that kind of gets to you. That kind of works on your, it tugs on the heartstrings.
And actually, I almost have a picture to go with that one, too. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That tugs
That
on
looks
the
like an
heartstrings.
oh, mommy, look, we have a room moment.
Yes. And what we're talking about is we're talking about families that have been in shelters that one whole family has one room. I have a situation where I have a mom and she has 8 children, 5 of them with her, and the 5 are with her in the one room. And we're working on now to get her housing. And she doesn't know which way to go, but what we do as we wrap the services around, she needs employment. So what I said is, well, you've got all these children, and one of the places you need to apply is a daycare. So that's what she's doing. She's in the process of applying for the daycare center, and we're working out something where the youngest 3 children will be at the daycare center with her. And if she has a job, she gets something along with public aid that would assist with the child care. And that's excellent. So not only will she be working, but she'll have the child care covered.
Good. Oh, it looks like we have a caller. Caller? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Hello?
I was calling about single people.
About single
what do
people?
you do for them? Because I don't have any kids or anything. And I would like to know about your program for single people.
Well, Beacon, while we serve primarily families, we are able to serve singles as well. There are a number of other agencies out there that also specialize with singles and working with singles. But we do assist people, and if you called one of our contact numbers, and I can put up the contact numbers again, our homeless outreach services, you can reach them by 773-233-3821. And if we can't assist you ourselves, we're happy to refer people to other agencies that would be better able to assist them. Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you. one of the things I wanted to ask, and it's sort of right in line with what our caller just asked, was just, can you talk a little bit about how people access our shelter outreach services? How do they get referred? How do they find out about them? What are ways that people get into the program?
What our SOS team, what we generally do is we go out to the shelters. We work with participants that are mainly in the shelters throughout the city. Then what we get the referral from the shelter worker, and they will say, well, I would like for you to talk to this person. What I try to do when I go out to the shelters is I try to basically see everybody there. I try at least one time to let them know what our services, what Beacon Therapeutic provides. A lot of times people just think, oh, Beacon Therapeutic, I don't need to see a psychiatrist. And it's not about seeing a psychiatrist. It's about wrapping all of these services that we have that they don't understand what we have. The case management, linking them to other agencies if necessary. A lot of times I've gone to shelters and I see a young lady in there that's 17, 18 years old and with a child. Well, there's a program that she shouldn't be in that shelter. She should be in the New Moms or Mom First. They have shelters for young ladies that are 18 to 23, I think it is, that they go into those shelters for the New Moms program, different programs. So what I find is there are people in some of the shelters that shouldn't be in there. Like I had a situation where there was a domestic violence situation. She didn't realize that she should have been in a domestic violence shelter. So I talked to staff and we worked it out where she was put into a domestic violence shelter. But one of the big things I love to work with is the housing. And I keep going back to the housing because that's what I like to do. We have participants out there that they need jobs, and we work on employment. I working on the application process. A lot of times our participants, because they've been so disappointed about, I've gone on 13 or 14 different interviews and I can't find a job. Well, what we do is we sit there and I have mock applications, and what we do is we go through a job application, and what happens is I find out that there are gaps in people's lives that they're trying to put the dates together, and I tell them, this is your life. This is one thing you should know. If an employer sits there in front of you and says, well, when did you graduate high school? A lot of people forget. So what we do is we do a template on a job application. You take this job application to every interview. When you go and fill out another application, this is the application you use as a template. Because if you mess up on your high school dates, on the dates, your last employment, that's a red flag to any employer. Say, well, your dates don't jive. What's going on? So that, and on that point, we want to be on point. So once we solve that, I found that they're more comfortable going in on job interviews. They're more confident in filling out the applications, because nowadays, back in my day, Alice, we did job applications with a pencil. You write it in with black ink. Yes, and it's funny because
I remember those days.
Yes, you write it in with black ink. Now they do it on computer. So I take my laptop and I have them work on doing a job application on computer. So and
there we go. This is another picture of one of our families.
Oh, okay. Yes. And looks like they're at the party. It was a little festival. And I tell you, to see those smiling faces really makes you feel good, because you know what? They've gone through a lot, and people don't understand how much they go through. I try to explain to folks, what does it mean? They say, well, Adrien, I understand what you're saying, and I know you're passionate about homelessness. But if I don't understand it, how can I really deal with homelessness? How can I help you? And I told them, this is one of my examples. I said, what you need to do is this. Have a friend take you downtown. Make sure you don't have any money in your pocket. Tell them to pick you up at 5 o'clock. You get down there at 8 in the morning. Tell them to pick you up at 5. and you'll find out what homelessness feels like. You take that day, you multiply it by 352 days, and that is homelessness. You're in a place where you have no money to go anywhere. You have nothing to do because you have no money. You have nowhere to go, just walking through the city. And any agency that's down there, the food that you have to depend on other people to feed you. That's homelessness. And that's a feeling, and they came back to me because I had one guy who did it, and he said he can only last till noon. And he called somebody because he had a cell phone. And I told him not to take a cell phone. But all in all, that's trying to get the feeling of what homelessness is about. And once you really understand what we're working with out here, then you can understand the passion that I have. Because the good feeling comes when I get somebody housed, when they get that key, and it feels good. And I have to commend the city, because what they've done is they've allowed, through the initiative program, they've allowed the landlords throughout the city to subsidize their apartments, where I'm able to put my participants in housing. So where normally their rent would be $800 or $900, some $1,200, they pay for a 2-bedroom is I know this by heart. For a 2-bedroom is $170. For a 3-bedroom is $200, and for a 3-bedroom is $250. And heat is paid by the city of Chicago, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing. In order to qualify, and that goes back to the shelters, we assess the participants, and we go through a process. That's why I try to explain to people, you do not know what you qualify for, and you may qualify for housing. We have people out there that are qualified for housing today, and they just don't know it. And all we can do is keep looking. Can you talk a little bit
about the different kinds of housing? You've talked a little bit about some subsidized, but what's the difference between, tell our viewers, what's the difference between supportive housing or market rate housing, or the different sort of levels of housing and services that the city in Chicago offers?
Okay. First, we have our market rate housing through subsidized. And with the subsidized, that's where the city pays a certain subsidy of the housing. Regular market rate, what that would be, is a person, if your rent is $800, your rent is $800. What happens is, and this is what people have to understand too, when you're homeless and trying to move, you have the rent. Say your rent is $800. Well, your Social Security is $800, and then you have to have moving expenses. And because maybe you have bad credit, you have a situation where you have to put up a deposit for your gas. You have to put up a deposit for your lights. So we're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $2,300 just to move. And that's quite expensive for somebody trying to come out to shelter. So that's market rate housing. What we also have is, what I do with my participants in the shelters, is we have the applications that I send off for them for housing in other cities. Subsidized housing, which is through, let's say, Peoria housing.
Danville.
Danville, definitely Danville. I have them even from New York. So we have housing all over the continent.
Wow. It looks like we have another caller. Caller, good evening.
Hi, I just have a question. Once your families are housed, what as a community can people do in terms of resources to help them live more comfortably and efficiently?
Beacon provides what we call good start kits or fresh start kits to families who are moving into housing. They include anything from towels and bed linens and cleaning supplies and cleaning equipment and all those kinds of things that, when you add it up and you're moving into a new house, really cost quite a bit of money, and it's not the kind of thing you take with you when you're homeless either.
Right.
So we help provide those. So people donate items that can go into the fresh start kits. Sometimes people will donate clothes, they'll donate mattresses and furniture and all those kinds of in-kind donations that Beacon gets goes directly to our participants as they're moving in, or if they're stably housed and perhaps their kids need some clothes, or they don't have enough sheets, or we've gotten fans for people when the weather's gotten really hot and they don't have air conditioning, refrigerators, you kind of name it, we take the donations and pass them on to our participants.
Right. It's been an experience moving stoves and refrigerators that are donated, and and I happen to be over that too. I do a lot. What we do is we once we get the donations in, when the participants need something, say we have somebody that just moved into the apartment and they need one of the big things, dinette sets or kitchen set, and we go into storage because we take inventory, we know what we have, and we say, okay, we got 4 chairs and a table, they look nice, everything looks good that we have, and we get it to the participant. And I don't understand, but every time I have to move somebody, they're on the 3rd floor. Every time I take a table, it's on the 3rd floor, and it's like they know. So I hate to. Every time, the first thing I ask is the 3rd floor.
All the other staff get dibs on the first floor apartments,
I don't
right?
understand how that's working. I don't understand it's working, but that's been I'm the 3rd floor guy. So, but it feels good because once you go in and you see the big empty space. And everybody's standing there because there's nowhere for them to sit. Some people just have milk crates. So, and the beautiful part is when we go in and we're able to furnish the whole apartment from a donation we received. And we go in and that takes all day. And we're moving in couches, tables, stove, and it's just it's like Christmas. And the kids, once you see the kids jumping, thank you. And it's not me. It's just I'm the recipient of doing it. And you're welcome. And it's just a good feeling. It's a good feeling. That's why I'm passionate about this, because I see the need. I see what happens when the dream comes through, when the magic works. And that's the beautiful part, when you see it working and see it working for people who deserve it. That's the good feeling. That's why I'm passionate about this. I know I say it a lot, but I love my job. I love the housing part of it. And, I'm just keep on keeping on. I try to get the folks out there, get them housed.
Well, we just have a couple of minutes left. I'm wondering if you can talk a little briefly about what services Beacon provides after families are housed, and kind of for how long, and just talk a little bit about how it is that we try to make sure that families stay housed once they are housed.
Well, once we get them housed, once you get housed, we got the furniture in there and everything's working, then we'll wrap the services around you. We don't leave you alone. We keep every week weekly count case management services. We help you put the children in school, which a lot of times we don't want the children, you have to go from one school to another, because if you're out of the area where the shelter you were in, we want to put you somewhere where the school is in the area. So we work on the school, we work on any medical issues, we work on the lights, the gas. We want to make sure that if you had to put up a deposit, whatever you need, we want to make sure that the apartment that you're in, everything is up to code, everything.
And I'm just going to put up our motto, because it kind of goes along with all you're talking about in terms of the empowering lives and changing futures.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's important, to empower the participant. Once they feel like they're involved in the situation, then they take more initiative in doing it. The house is clean. We want to make sure that, because some of our participants been homeless for so long, we're working on just regular house cleaning, different things that need to be done in the apartment. And it's a great feeling to see that, once you come around week after week, then they start doing it on their own, then, hey, it's happening. You see the magic working. And it's just a great feeling. So we've got the housing straight. We got the employment. We see, okay, now if they're not working, we work on trying to get employment. And whatever
we're on final words now. So if you want to, I know you had something you wanted to squeeze in there before we finish.
Okay. For those people that we've already found housing, I know you're enjoying it, and hey, welcome home. For those people that we're still working on with the housing, be patient. It's going to happen. For those people that we haven't gotten to yet, we're coming. And that's all
And
I
with
have
that,
to say.
thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.